Duke 690. Never ridden it before. Just a quick rip to my house here to check this audio. I'm using a GoPro Hero 2 with a $2 mic that I found on sale in a bin at London Drugs because budget is the way to go. But it's a 2014. Apparently they made some changes to this year compared to the previous year. I know they added a little bit more power and a couple other little things. To be honest, I'm not really too familiar with this bike. It's my first time riding a single cylinder side of like a dirt bike, 4-stroke dirt bike, but I'm really excited to see what this thing's going to be like, just ripping around the city and heading out to the mountain side of things and hit some twisties. Last week, or sorry, a couple days ago, I reviewed a Triumph Street Triple R 2014. First time I've ever ridden a naked bike, and I loved it. Probably one of my favorite bikes I've ever ridden, so I'm really curious to see how this compares to it, being a naked bike, or so they claim it to be anyways, right? I know they're not really in the same category, being a 3-cylinder versus this 1-cylinder, but you know, same CC, same kind of style, so we'll see how it compares to it, but I'll try not to, you know, compare too much or try and go back and forth between them. This is actually my first time doing a video review, so bear with me if I'm talking a lot, but it's just kind of my nature. Anybody who knows me knows I talk a lot, so it'll be interesting. Oh, sorry, thought I'd knock my mic out there. So yeah, 690cc. It's got 67 horsepower, claimed anyways. It's supposed to peak out around 7,600 RPM, I believe it is. Torque's around 50 foot-pounds, or in that 5,500 RPM range. So it's got a lot of punch in you know, mid-range RPM, and redline's at 8,000. So it'll be fun to go romp on it a bit once I get out, you know, where it's safe and fun. Bike weighs in at 330 pounds dry, so I'm assuming, well, that's without fuel, so I'm assuming, you know, 340 pounds or so, 350 pounds. I'm 5'6", 155 pounds, and this bike feels like it was honestly molded for me. Comfortable seat, it's literally hugging my butt. Could do very well for a long trip, I think. Curious to see a couple complaints about it online, saying that it's really buzzy above 5,000 RPMs to the point where people's hands go numb or tingle. But you know, anybody who rides sport bikes knows that that's kind of normal, unless you got some chunky bar ends, which this one has bar ends on it, but they don't look too big, probably just factory. Gonna head down to Highway 1A. I'll probably interrupt the recording just to save you from listening to me blab for the next 20 minutes while I drive out there. But so far I'm kind of got a sweet spot for this thing. It's really nice. It's really, really lightweight, like probably one of the most flickable bikes I've ever ridden before, and I thought that Triumph was really light and flickable, but this is on a whole new level. I don't know if that's just because of the bar height or the tires or the wheel size or what it is. Well, obviously the weight applies to that, but it feels great. This is definitely a bike that I would suggest to a beginner rider. You know, the clutch is really, really nice and light. It's not, you know, peel your head back power, but it's definitely got enough torque where I really don't think you'd grow out of it. I come from leader bikes. You know, I've always had 1,000 cc's or at least a 750. I have ridden a ton of other bikes, but this is my first time on something like this. So in comparison to all the other bikes that I've ridden, this is by far the best for a beginner rider and for someone who just likes to hoon around. I can already tell that it's going to be a wheelie machine in first and second gear for sure. Well, I'm in 6th gear right now at 110, sitting around 4,500 RPM. So there's a little bit of a buzz translating into the handlebars, but honestly, I feel more in my seat. It's nothing, you know, extravagant. If you like sitting in massage chairs, you probably really enjoy this. And everybody likes a massage chair, so really curious to see what it's like once we get out into the mountains and I can play around in that torque band. It's got a really broad torque band on it. I'll show you once I get into an area where I can actually open it up. Really like the gauge cluster, actually. KTM in their black and orange, or white and black and orange. I love it. It's a great color scheme. And as I was just thinking this as I'm driving in traffic, what a great city bike this thing would make. Plenty of torque where you don't have to rev it out and, you know, piss everybody off with your inline 4 and your loud exhaust and everything like that. You can just putt around on this thing. It literally sounds like a dirt bike. So, especially with the muffler that's on it, the factory muffler, it's pretty quiet. But you don't have to, you know, jam around or redline the thing to get going. Suspension is really, really soft on it. Not that that's a complaint. I actually really like it, especially because of our awesome roads here in Alberta. It really soaks everything up, but it does feel compliant. I'll know more again once I'm out into the twisty side of things, and we'll see what it can do. But loving it so far. Great visibility, good mirrors. Have to adjust my one just a little bit, but you know, for a claimed buzzy engine, there's no funhouse mirrors going on. I can actually still see out of them even when I'm in the higher RPM range, so that's a bonus. Like I said, this is my first video review, so bear with me if I'm chattering or whatever it may be, but please feel free to suggest some things you guys want me to address or topics or anything like that. I'm an opinionated person, so I'll gladly share my thoughts on things. Bit of a background on myself. I'm 29 years old now, but I've been riding for 12, almost 13 years. First bike was 97 Kawasaki ZX7R Ninja. You know, everyone told me not to go to any bigger than a 600, or I should start on a 300 or whatever it may be, but I fell in love with the look of that bike, and well, I bought one, and it was a fantastic bike. I sold it with 76,000 kilometers on it, put a lot of miles on it. It was basically my first bike and my main mode of transportation. I drove that thing all the way into October and even into November on some years. And rain, shine, didn't matter. I drove that thing. And then after that, I went into a couple 600s. I had an R6, which I really liked. It was a 2000, and then I bought a 99 R1 shortly after that, and well, the addiction to one liter bikes came into fruition. So, and then I've ridden a ton of bikes throughout the years. Was big into the stunting phase for a while, but obviously grew out of that. You know, still like to have fun once in a while, but I've just kind of learned that that's not worth it. But that's a topic on its own if people ever want to talk about that. You know, back to the suspension. I'm really liking the setup that this is. I don't know if these are adjustable dampers or not. No, they're not. They're preloaded, so it's on the softer side of things, but again, it's, you know, it feels very, very flickable and compliant with more spirited riding so far. It's been a long time since I've ridden out on Highway 1A, so I'm kind of excited to go tear that up. Last time I was out there was in, 2004 or 2005 on my R1 with a bunch of Hoonigans, and It was a fun ride, and the pavement was in really bad shape, but apparently they've repaved that whole area, so rip out there and see what it's like. Everyone's probably looking at me. I got GoPros hanging all over my head here. That's okay. Oh, to be a monkey. That would be an interesting thing on this, to see what it'd be like with a passenger on it. Such a light bike, it's either going to wheelie the entire time or, you know, be somewhat manageable with a second person on there, a monkey hanging on your back. But this seat is phenomenal. That's probably my favorite part about this bike right now. I read a couple reviews, people saying that the seat was uncomfortable, but I have to disagree. But maybe just having a tiny butt works pretty well on this thing. Second time I've done that. It kind of jumps in between 5th and 6th. I don't know if I'm just not kicking it up hard enough. Now apparently this thing's fitted with a what they call an anti-shudder or anti-chatter clutch, anti-slip clutch, whatever. There's a couple names for it, but it's starting to come into fruition with a bunch of other bikes too. This is my first time riding a bike with it. They claim a 50% reduction in lever pull and tension, and I believe every little bit of that. This clutch lever is so soft, it's easy to ride. Like, you could definitely city this bike as much as you wanted without getting, you know, Popeye forearms like you do with some of these other bikes. Apparently, it stops wheel chatter when you're coming into hard corners and under heavy braking or downshifting, where you'd usually get that wheel lockup. Anybody who rides on a little bit of the harder side knows what I'm talking about. My ZX-10 was horrible for it when you came into a corner really hot and started grabbing gears. It would chatter and, you know, unsettle the bike quite a bit. So I'm interested to see what this is like on a heavy downshift, to see what if it works or if the hype lives up to it. One thing I like about this bike is you really don't feel like you need to be in it all the time. On that Triumph, you know, not that that's a bad thing, but I was giving it gas all the time, just basically to hear the thing. But you know, it enjoyed being revved out, where, you know, these lower end single cylinders and twins, you know, they like to be in that low end where they generate all their torque, so you don't find yourself speeding like you do in some of these other bikes. Finally, and what a beautiful view, beautiful road. It's way better than it was years ago, that's for sure. So on the highway, I actually don't mind this bike. I thought it was going to be a lot worse than it is, and it doesn't vibrate nearly as much as people say, but you know, definitely a rideable bike on the highway. That was one thing I was thinking, like, what's it going to be like to ride this thing out to a twisty area? But it's great. Now we're finally getting to dip into some corners here, so that's always fun. We'll see what it's like. Oh, again, this back brake is phenomenal. Look at the turn-in on this thing, is so good. I love it. And the soft suspension really doesn't mess around. It mess you up in the corners or anything. Turns very well, and the braking is phenomenal on this. I'm very happy with it, considering it's a single disc. I was thinking maybe it wouldn't have much braking power, but, you know, at 330 pounds, you really don't need that much braking power. And having a 4-piston up front is adequate completely. Oh, I love this road. I'm so glad they repaved it. It used to be so bad. But look at this view. you know, you do a nice long ride. This goes straight into Canmore. I don't know how many people take this road that are going to listen to this, but it's definitely a suggested road. You know, it's a little busy right now. There's quite a bit of traffic on it, but you can really open it up in some of these areas, and it does have some nice corners in it. No shoulder, which is a little unnerving if you're not used to it, but it's good. It's a good road. Plus you get to drive straight through the heart of the mountains, and that's just a beautiful thing. You know, living in Calgary and being so close to the mountains, a lot of us forget how lucky we are to have such a landscape around us. People travel all around the world, or from all around the world, just to come to these mountains and see them. And you know, they're in our backyard, and we almost act like they're not there. And we're back. Bit of traffic there, but nothing the Duke can't handle. Really happy with the power output that it has. It does have a very strong torque curve. It's very long too. You know, it starts to push, I would say, around 3,500 RPMs. You really start to feel the torque come on. It says that it peaks around 55, but it pulls strong all the way up until 8,000 RPMs, and I think that's just thanks to the horsepower peaking up on the higher side of things. But definitely plenty of power. Definitely lots of power. Definitely. You know, you can pass if you're doing 100 and you're in 6th gear. You don't have to shift down. What a beautiful area this is. Love it. At every corner I get to, there's a car. I love the turn-in on this bike. It's so confidence-inspiring. It's crazy. Very composed, very predictable. Carries a line perfectly. Now, I haven't tried this, you know, locking the back wheel up from downshifting, but maybe that's just because it's working. I've done a couple of hard downshifts that you know, coming into some lights, and it was great. It didn't lock up. It was really smooth. Saskatchewan. Now, they were really nice. I'm gonna back off because, you know, I don't like taking corners at 25 kilometers an hour. So. Oh, great. Brake lights. Yay, passing lanes. Yeah, I suggest this road to pretty much anybody that wants to come out. Even in a car, it's a nice road to ride on. You know, it's got some nice cambered corners, some hills. I like it. I like it a lot. And oh, passing lanes. Those are nice too. Again, I really hope this audio is coming through well. It did on the test run, but it is a little more windy here. So I'm talking probably pretty loud compared to what I would if you were standing right in front of me, but what don't I like about it? To be honest, I haven't really found anything I don't like about it. You know, being a power-hungry person that I am, I would say some more power would be nice, but for a 600, it's plenty. It's a lot more enjoyable just to boot around on, like, you know, the R6s and the regular inline 4 600s. They're fun, don't get me wrong. You know, it's fun to rev them out and to tear on them. You know, it's like owning a Ferrari, but this is more like a muscle car. You know, it's got all the torque. You can play around in pretty much any gear and enjoy it. You don't have to be doing 180 kilometers an hour to enjoy the ride. You know, you up to 60k, you can have a ton of fun, and that's what counts, right? Like, you got to enjoy every aspect of a bike when when you have it, especially, well, depending what you're using it for. But in my honest opinion, I would take this over an R6 any day. Personally, anyways, it's more my riding style. I like the getting up to, you know, speed limits fast kind of thing. That torque. That's what I enjoy when I'm riding. And you know, the smaller CC inline fours, they need a lot of revs to truly enjoy the power band since they're really high. I love it. I love this bike. Honestly, I'm yet to find something I don't like about it. It handles absolutely amazing for the speeds that you're going. Again, you don't have to be doing 180, 160, whatever to enjoy this. You know, I don't think I broke 120 yet, really. I mean, 12. I haven't broke 12. This is beautiful. Love this road. There's Mount Yamnuska. It's a good hike if anybody ever wants to do it. I'm saying that's Mount Yamnuska because I'm hoping it is, because that would be kind of foolish if it wasn't. But good hike if anybody wants to. Take 1A. It's right off the right hand side of it. A little silence won't hurt anybody. Just enjoying what the Duke has to offer, which is quite a bit. Not to sound like a broken record, but again, this would be a really great bike for a beginner, and even for people that have a lot of experience on the bigger CC bikes. This is a very, very fun bike. Twisty wise, I absolutely love it. Watch for livestock. And that's again the beauty of having not a ton of power, is you can do full throttle out of the corner exit. Mid-corner you can punch it and it just pulls you right through. Even in 6th gear, you don't have to shift down to enjoy it. My next review coming up here is the BMWs, the GS800 and the GS1200, which I've never ridden a dual cross. I'm pretty excited about it. I don't know if my short little legs are gonna be able to touch the ground too well, but it'll be an interesting experience anyways. Plan to take it on a bit of, you know, some back roads, not off-roading or anything, but I do want to see what it's like on gravel and how it handles, you know, drifting around like that. I have ridden quite a few dirt bikes in my life, but you know, never a dual cross that stands taller than I do when I'm beside it. So I'm gonna grab 4th gear for this just to see what it's like coming out. Yeah, that's nice. Nice. One thing I, you know, comically have noticed about this bike is, one, it gets a lot of looks. A lot of people like it. I've got a couple thumbs up already. It's a very cool looking bike. You know, I'm used to the full fairing super sports. Not really accustomed to this look, but I really like it now. and especially with you know, all that beautiful attention you get when you're riding around. But one other thing that I have noticed is Harley riders wave at you. On my ZX10 and you know, some of my other rockets, it's rare that I get waved at. You know, I know how it is. There's the criticisms all over the place about crotch rocket riders, but there's one thing I notice about this is the judgments are dropped a little. I'm not so under scrutiny. These guys out for a ride here. I just see beards flowing in the wind. It's kind of funny. They're just like whiskers smacking around. So does the guy up front. Aha! I was right. It was Mount Yamnuska. See? Not so foolish. And you know what? I'm actually going to pull in there. Because that's a beautiful little spot. I can get some pictures and do my thing. Test these brakes quick. Ooh, that's nice. Rev limiter comes pretty quickly in first gear there. Yeah, it's got plenty of go. There's no denying that. Now, I'm not too sure how this thing is on fuel. I know that the previous years there's some complaints about fuel consumption, and they claim to have improved that quite drastically with this new year. I'll have to check once I'm stopped. I'm going to pop the tank. It doesn't have a fuel gauge, oddly enough. You know, for a 2014, that's one thing, you know, I might gripe about, is the fact that there isn't a fuel gauge on it. You know, it's got ABS and everything else. You would think that it would have a fuel gauge, but you know, not every bike has one, I guess. Or maybe people aren't riding these long distance enough to really worry about it.